Righto guys, new day, new week. Ready to dive headfirst into an empty pool again. Same old stuff. New day, new week, same old stuff. Anyway, Bo's working away. Bo's at the moment making a plate that I'm going to put all my power distribution on in the back there from the battery. He's made a plate to cover the, I don't even know what that was, the old clutch cable hole, I guess it was. Yeah, so anyway, we're cooking along. I'm still cooking along with this loom. It's happening. Started to split and start getting it ready to terminate into our bulkhead connectors, which is, it's going to be a bit of a process, but hey, it is what it is. Finally, our balancer that made a big trip to Perth and back has arrived, but we're no closer to where we need to be because there's been a mix-up. So we've been sent another balancer shell, which personally I don't understand how we got to that from where we were talking about with what we needed, but it is what it is. So from what I can understand is, from what we've been sent as far as the sleeve that we talked about with the internal crank support, that is only if you want to run aircon on the regular aircon offset, which is where you'd have the extra aircon at the back of the crank. So yeah, apparently that's what that's all about, which yeah, to be honest, again, I don't understand how we got there. Obviously we're running aircon, but we're running it off the serpentine. We're not running it off the separate 6 rib. So yeah, again, big mix up. So for whatever reason, Joe thought we needed another shell, which we don't. We already have a shell. What we need is a hub to get rid of this, which is what interferes with that. So by the sounds of it, what you're meant to get when you order your internal crank support is a hub that goes on, which is basically this piece, which is to fit the internal crank support. So from what I can understand, firstly, we've been sent the wrong thing. What we need is another hub without the HDV, which we don't have at this point. And we were hoping to have this together last week. So, but also it sounds like when you are sent the right hub to suit this crank support, you don't actually need this shell. So you don't need the shell at all because you don't need to run a standard balancer. So obviously their hub is the right diameter that it fits the crank, but also is designed to sit inside the bearing. So it all works without this, which also means we shouldn't need the oil pump housing in the engine either. So there should be no need for the oil pump housing because there should be no sleeve to walk off the back of the hub. And the hub should just bolt the shell to it and everything else bolts to the front of it like it should. And it should just go on the crank and be the right diameter for the bearing. So that's the big mix up. So we've now paid for a new hub, which is on the way. I can pull this off, get our oil pump back off it. So again, just not only have we now lost 4 or 5 days waiting for a part to get here that was wrong anyway, and now not having the right part that we need, but also all the time that was spent trying to work out how this was going to work with our oil pump and everything. That was a good couple of hours finding an oil pump to, just the amount of hours that have been thrown away just in this. Yeah, guys, I'm so over it. I'm so sick of it. So anyways, the long story short is we're pretty sure at the bottom of what the hell has gone on, and we're pretty sure now the right parts are on the way. Hopefully this time they don't make a trip to Perth and come back, and hopefully they're here sort of tomorrow. And then we'll send back the sleeve and this balancer that we didn't need. And yeah, I can't see this hitting this deadline the way things are going. It's just too many setbacks. So at least our new fans have arrived. So Bo's gonna get cracking on making a new fan shroud. It would have been really nice to have all of the engine and everything in there at this stage, but yeah, what do you do? Anyway, from our measurements, as long as that fan shroud's flat, we should be fine. There should be plenty of room, so yeah. All right, guys, it's getting on a bit. As you can see, Bo's obviously gone home now because it's late, but he's coming along with our new fan shroud that's getting built for our new Maridine fans. I have terminated and populated our quick connect plugs for the firewall, and my lord, honestly, took a lot longer than I had anticipated or thought it would. But as you can see, we did manage to get everything in those 2 plugs, which is awesome. So that makes our whole engine loom nice and quick, easy to disconnect, connect, etc. But yeah, that took hours and hours and hours, a lot longer than I anticipated. As well as that, we were short quite a few pins. We were missing a heap of pins. So one of our complaints with our supplier, where we'll be getting a lot of our Deutsch plugs and connectors and stuff from, is these plastic containers that they give them to us in. These often come split, and we're often fishing out terminals and pins and stuff out of the bottom cardboard boxes when we buy a big lot of stock, which has been very frustrating. And obviously quite a few pins from that one had been lost along the way. So I managed to get that end, managed to be able to sham around and get that end sorted, but I might have to go get some more pins before we can do the other side of them, which is frustrating. But anyway, that's that. Yeah, anyway, yeah, that frickin' took ages. Anyway, although it took a long time, it'll be worth it to be able to just whack the two quick disconnects off and lay them over the engine and pull the whole engine out without having to worry about pulling loom. So that'll be handy. Now I've got to frickin' terminate the rest. So there's a couple that I can terminate. Like I said, there's a few that I would like to leave until the engine's in there, just to make sure that I get the distances correct. As I said, ideally I would have rather start the whole thing while the engine was in there, but that's just not happened the way we wanted to. Nothing's happened the way we wanted to. Yeah, nothing's gone to plan. Nothing's happened the way that we would have liked to. It just is what it is when you're building cars. Alright guys, moving along. It's getting later and later, but Rex is working on running our 50mm square cable from the back up to where the R5 is going to be. So from what we measured with the sill panels and what we would have to basically modify, and because of where the handbrake is on the other side, we will be able to fit two on this side, which will be our positive and earth for the R5, and then we'll run one externally, which will be for our starter. So it can be external. When I bought all the cable, I bought a heap of glands, nylon glands, so it can be run externally and be completely sealed and all the rest. So we'll do that. While Rex has been doing that, I've been finishing off some wiring in the back. Stuff I've been meaning to do for ages. So that's how our fuel pump wiring will end up. Little sub loom that is a little Deutsch connector as well. Started wiring in our fuel sender and stuff, and I'll still got to do our power steering pump and stuff now that it's been moved. I'm gonna have to extend a bit of that and fix a bit of that up, and a lot of the earths on this sub loom for the boot I hadn't put on because we didn't have any eyelets when it was here last, but I do now. So, and I have terminated. Well, I had terminated as much of this loom as I thought I could. I thought I had ordered a heap of Deutsch connectors but not had any DDM6s, which was crazy because I ended up needing mostly DDM6s. But when I went to finish doing wiring in the boot, found a box full of DDM6 connectors, so there is a lot more that I can keep going on now with this loom, which I may do, but it's getting pretty late, so probably look at heading off pretty soon. Keep going in the morning, but yeah, moving along. We're getting there. It's a mess, but it always is with wiring. But anyway, there's still a bit more I can go on with this. Rightio guys, miserable day, which makes it super motivating. But anyway, we're here continuing on. Rex has been working out the wiring for the wiper motor, working all that out so that we can finish, I suppose, wiring the front end of the car, the lights, the wiper, and that sort of thing. So Rex has been sorting that out. Bo's finished our new fan shroud and our fans, which is looking awesome, as you can see with our oil pump in there. We've got some room there now, so that's going to be much nicer, that solution, than what was in there. So should all work, should have room, should be good. Happy days. So, and then I've been continuing on with this loom, terminating. Yeah, found all them Deutsch plugs, which is sweet, so I've been terminating them. I terminated our wideband plugs, and turns out the widebands that we have are slightly different and they won't frickin' fit. So now we've got to get different widebands. So the widebands we've got that little key, which is up the top there. So that little key, and they don't fit these frickin' plugs. So I figured that LSU 49s, I thought they were pretty universal as far as these plugs. Like, you know, you got these or a 6-pin Deutsch, as far as I was aware. I thought they were all pretty universal outside of that. But no, they aren't. So I need to order more O2 sensors now, which is fun. But yeah, yeehaw, fun. Rightio, boys and girls, checking in. It's been a little minute. So I got to the bottom of our OT situation. The problem is not that I'm stupid. It is a standard and it should have been right. And they did send me one of the right sensors and one of the wrong sensors. So they sent me an odd pair, which is why this one doesn't suit, because it's not the right sensor, it's not the one I ordered. The one that I did order, the right one, does fit and is fine. So it's not me, I'm not crazy, I'm not an idiot. I did get it right. I just sent me the wrong one. So that still sucks that we're gonna have to order another one. That's a mad pain. Anyway, we're here at the moment. I'm getting the front of the car loom sorted out, as you can see here. Bo's giving me a hand to get this sorted. Pretty straightforward what's going on here. Plenty of sensors and stuff going on at the front. There's a bit going on. We're going to have oil temp up here, which is going to be part of the car loom. We're going to have inter-chiller fluid temp, pre and post chiller, just so we can monitor how good the chiller's working, as well as coming out of the brick on the blower. So there's going to be 3 coolant sensors in the chiller setup. We've got AC pressure, AC solenoid, intercooler pressure, coolant pressure will be part of this loom as well. I'm just going to put a little pigtail to sort that out. Because of our change in water pump and going to these blocks on the block instead of having a standard water pump and our standard inlet for the radiator, we are still unsure about how this is all going to play out as far as our water setup. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure where this sensor is going to end up or whether it's going to be feasible to get it in there. So the way things are going, between, you know, having to get this other O2 sensor, waiting for this hub, for this engine, there's quite a bit that we're not going to make this deadline. We're just not going to, it's not going to happen. So given that fact, I'm going to talk to the owner tonight. He was pretty set on making this deadline and basically having to get it whether it's finished or not. So I'll leave it up to him. But if he can give us a bit more time, if we have the extra time, there's a few things I'd like to finish properly. There's a few things that we were sort of just rushing through to get it running, get it to this deadline that I would like to finish properly if we have the time. One of them being this whole water situation with our new water pump. I'd really like to sort out these fittings and stuff properly and get our heater sorted. At this stage, we weren't even going to run a heater because we didn't have time to find a solution to getting a heater lines to the heater. It just wasn't going to work with the way this water setup was going to end up. So if we can have a bit of extra time to sort that out, not only that, but we need a 3D design ducts, or I suppose we need the 3D print or design and print adapters so that we can duct the AC to the ducts that are in the dash and in the, I think I've already been through that with you guys on a different video, but there still needs to be a solution 3D designed so that we can get the ducts to the ducting in the dash for the AC system. So at this stage, you know, we weren't going to worry about heater, we weren't going to worry about ducting the AC. It was just going to be they would have to get done later because we just were focused on getting it running. But if we got the extra time, I would like to sort those things out properly. But I mean, it's a pain in the ass because if we had the extra time, there's a lot of things we would have done different. But when you're under the pump on a time crunch, you sort of have to, something's got to give, and you got to rush a few things. And there's a few things we probably would have done a bit different if we had extra time. But it is what it is, and this is what we're working with. But anyway, it's definitely not making this deadline between having to wait for these things, so it is what it is. Righto guys, back here this morning. I didn't work last night because I had to do dad things, but Rex stayed back last night and got the other head on this thing. So we're still waiting for our balancer and everything else to get this head on, but that's because we need to be able to measure top dead center accurately to get our timing pointer right before this head goes on. But there was nothing stopping us from putting the other side head on, the driver's side head. So Rex did that and started measuring up for push rods. Because we're using Johnson tie bar short travel lifters, the push rod lengths have to be specifically very, very specific. Very specifically Pacific. So it's almost an individual size push rod for each hole. It's not going to be quite that dramatic. We should be able to use 2 different size push rods across the whole head, but obviously takes some very, very careful measuring, working out to get our actual exact push rod lengths to suit this thing. So we'll have to wait until this hub gets here, put this head on, do the same on this side, order our custom push rods, which this morning I checked the tracking for our new hub that's on the way, and although the booking for the courier was made on Monday, it's now Wednesday, which is when the tracking number says that the item should be delivered to us. However, the latest tracking on the tracking number states that the item was only picked up at 8:25 this morning, which would lead me to believe Although obviously Joe's done as much as he can of trying to get it to us ASAP, I think once again we're being completely dogged by a courier company, by a freight company. Because, you know, who knows, it only just got picked up on the day that it was supposed to be delivered, and it's probably still got to go to Perth and back. So
yeah, me too. I was about to say, oh, it's still going to go to Perth, mate.
Yeah, so just an absolute, yeah. Because of our circumstances at the moment, I don't really have a car, and I just haven't had time to sort one out because this has been our entire life 24/7 for the past 3 weeks. So yeah, I couldn't really just go down and get it, which is frustrating, but anyway. I figured with everything that was going on and how it was going to be, being delivered this morning was going to be the quickest way I was going to be able to get it, because I wouldn't have been able to drive down there and get it until today. But it's all said and done. I probably should have just freaking driven down and got it today. Anyway, frustrating, but talked with the client yesterday. Obviously, it's Wednesday. We're still waiting on this freaking hub. There's no way we're making this deadline. So considering the fact that we're not making the deadline, I had a chat to him about how, because of the change in the water pump system and how this is all worked out, we're pretty unhappy with what we've had to do as far as getting fittings in to sort out the water, radiator hoses and everything else. And, you know, if we have the extra time, we would really like to finish this properly so that we can organise getting some heater hoses in the rad hoses and get the heater working. I would like to, yeah, obviously do them ducts to get the AC ducted in. Ideally, with what's going on here, we would like to get this radiator modified, get rid of our general radiator inlet and get some AN10 ports in the tank instead so that we can come straight out into our radiator. Not only that, but without a top radiator hose, my idea for a coolant pressure sensor means it's probably gonna have to go in the top tank. So if we can get a 1/8 MBT in the top tank, that'd be awesome, plus our steam port. So some modifications to the radiator would go a long way in making this a lot neater the way this water setup has ended up. So given that it's not going to make the deadline anyway, he's pretty happy to just let us take the extra time to get it sorted properly. As frustrating as that is, because if we had the extra time to start with, there's a few things we probably would have done a bit differently in the past couple of weeks, or the past week I should say, but hey, it is what it is. At least we get to finish some things properly. And at least hopefully now, by the time it gets to the end of this month and the car actually is leaving, it is finished properly, and should just be a matter of running some time on the gearbox and diff, get some run-in time just to run those two things in, get some time in the engine, and then get it on a set of hubs and let it eat, see what it can do, which we're really excited for. But anyway, we've got some extra time, it was good to have that conversation this morning with him before I checked on the status of the tracking for that hub, because if we were still under the pump, and I checked that, I might have had a freaking aneurysm. So that's that. Anyway, we've got some more time, still plenty to do. As I said to the client, even though we've got the extra time, I'm still going to be pushing to get this thing started and running pretty much as soon as possible. It's still, as far as we're concerned, it's just some extra time to get some things sorted out properly, but it's still steamrolling ahead, because who knows what issues will arise once we actually get it running. It's a car, it's proven that it's an absolute prick of a thing and likes to fight us at every turn and likes to throw things in our face. So yeah, who knows what's going to arise by the time we actually get it powered up and running. So I'd like to know any of those things still as soon as possible, because naturally that extra time will probably end up just getting eaten by generic shit that happens when you're building cars. So anyway, Bo's over here. He's putting the insulation that's supplied by Kirk there at Forced Induction Interchillers for the blower manifold. So this is to try and create a bit of a heat barrier between the engine and the manifold to keep the manifold nice and cool. Everything, you know, Kirk there at Forced Induction Interchillers supplies the interchiller kit and everything possible that you can do to try and keep those intake air temps down and keep the intake temps as low as possible. So Bo's sorting that out. One thing we realised, it's got no O-rings in the manifold. I can't remember if they were in there or not. I really can't. So gonna have to sort out some more ones, some new ones. But it is what it is. We'll see what we can sort out. A few more things like that. But yeah, at least things like the SO2 sensor, getting those O-rings. Hopefully this hub's still here this week, so that we can still get the engine in the car this week at least. But yeah, it's just, at least the pressure's off a little bit, as far as the timeline goes, and we can spend some time getting some things properly sorted, because it is frustrating when we want to build a car the way we want to build it to showcase what we can do, and we end up sort of having to do things not exactly the way we want to do them due to time constraints. So, but anyway, let's go. If we've got a bit more time, I may I may just have a look around and see what other options we might have for this, because this is my biggest concern with the cooling system. The way that we've had to go with this car is these low profile orb fittings going into the block. I believe they're going to restrict flow quite a bit, and I'm worried that they will restrict flow enough that it's going to cause heating issues in the engine. But obviously, because of our belt route, where our belt has to go, and then having our blower drive in front of that, there's very minimal room that we have to work with to do anything. So I'll have a look and see what other options there are, but I'm afraid to say that I don't think there's gonna really be any other options. And to 3D design and CNC something like that is quite difficult and complicated, and yeah, not exactly ideal either. So anyway, I'll have a quick look, see if there's something else we can sort out. Rightio guys, so I've pretty much got this all roughed in. I've tried to future-proof and think about anything we might want to put in it in the future and everything else we're going to do. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything or missed anything, but it is what it is. Now, a little bit of a lack of forethought on my part, where I want to run this wiring up the guard and stuff. I am going to have to make sure that there are breakouts and Deutsch connectors for essentially this loom that runs up the guard. Otherwise, you'll never be able to get the guard on and off because the rest of it's hardwired inside the car. So, you know, without having to pretty much disconnect this whole front end of the loom and then pull it back through the guard, the only way to do it is to Deutsch plug all these. So I've split them up. The other thing is we'll be running through these ones through the firewall. So we've got some firewall grommets that we will be using for that, because the motorsport connectors are super duper expensive. So we figured whatever was just going to be part of the car and not part of the engine coming in and out could it just as easily be, you know, through the firewall. And that's how it is. Obviously, because we're running this up inside the guard, this is going to have to be Deutsch connectors, which it would have been nice to have another motorsport connector, but it's probably a lot of cost that we don't really need to incur. By the time I thin this out, like a lot of the sensor earths and everything else can go and be spliced together before our Deutsch plug, so it won't quite be this thick. And then just a DTP4 for that one. And this one can be hardwired. It doesn't need a Deutsch plug because it stays on the firewall. So I've had to separate it all out like this so that I can start doing that. And if I'd thought about it from the start, I would have obviously labeled these as I was going where the join's going to be. Now when I cut it, I'm going to have to, a lot of them, I'm going to have to use just a buzz tester to figure out which wire's which in this part for the Deutsch connectors. But hey, that's that. Anyway, wiring is just super time consuming, takes ages. Next time I'm wiring up a car, again, I apologize guys. The other thing that I know I've complained a lot about being under the pump and doing things not exactly the way we'd want to do them, and wishing we had more time to finish things properly. But on top of that, I do really wish I had the time to create the content of this build properly as well. Again, because we're selling to the pump flat out, I'm trying to run a business as well as project manage and work all at the same time. And it really annoys me how it ends up being, and it's why the content ends up being the way it is. And I do apologize, it's not how I intended to make the content, but I figured this content is still better than no content. But yeah, I would really like to hopefully get to a point soon where I can have some extra time to put towards making better content. And yeah, basically where I was getting with that is next time we do a full wire up of a car, I would really like to set up some time lapses and stuff like that so you can see the process. It is super time consuming. But I must say, when you do it right from the beginning, the result, you know, like this, like getting this kind of result, and then obviously putting it all together in the car at the end of the build, connecting everything up and having everything just work, super fulfilling, I must say. I do enjoy it. Anyway, it's time to pretty much put our cut in, start determining what's what, and starting to wrap up the loom and get our sheath and stuff on, and yeah, make this all happen. All right guys, more of the same wiring. So this is our loom for the front end. It is sort of mostly wrapped up. Just got to start terminating on all my planning and colors and everything else and what's gonna be what. I was lucky, I nearly forgot something. Lucky I started doing this before I finished buttoning up all the sheathing, because I did nearly forget something. But anyway, no harm, no foul. We got it in there before it all got wrapped up. We're all sweet. But yeah, got to start terminating that, and that's only the front half, and that's only to the firewall. Then I've got to do obviously the firewall one, and then I've got to wire everything, engine loom, all of this, all back to the R5 is the next thing after that, and I've got to run all the cables from front to back. I've got them all sort of sheathed up, ready to go, which sucked. Actually making a can pair, trying to twist up that much of that wire to get that and then get it in the sheath. Yeah, that was a pain. So we got our can, go from back to front. We've got our parkers and indicators to go from the PDM back to front. Try and free up some, or keep some HCOs free on the R5. But yeah, so yeah, it's all happening. I have to sort that out soon, and obviously run the 16mm square power as well with those couple of things from back to front. And then I'll put a post up in the firewall somewhere for the 16mm power, because that will not only power our intercooler pump, that'll be the hard power to the intercooler pump. We'll also take our power for the AC unit from there as well, and probably a few other things, interior light. So there's no way that we could wire the interior light through the ECU, because if we did that, it would never work with the car powered off. So there's no way that you could have the interior light powered from the ECU and then have it work with the car just parked there. So the interior lights and the AC unit are probably the only things in the car that are gonna be not powered directly through the Haltech stuff. They will be direct to battery, but it is what it is. That's not a big deal. Anyway, while I've been busy doing that, the boys have been getting this together and dummying things up and having a squiz at how this is all gonna go. We've also Rex dummied up the other head.
No, these P1 fasters are just that good. Just randomly using the one. Should be right. The other sides are all in.
So yeah, dummied the head on, blowers on. As you can see, both finished wrapping the underside of the manifold. Got our blower spacers on. They're also supplied by forced induction inner chillers to, again, be able to fit all of your heat barrier things and get everything right. As you can see, even our water blocks, once fitted to our actual engine with our Joe Blow crank support, had to use these 1/4-inch spacers that I actually bought to try and space out a regular water pump, which didn't end up working. But lucky we had them, because they actually needed them for these blocks because of the way the crank support sits. This block would have hit the crank support, and that would have been a problem. So we actually end up using these spacers in the end as well. But as you can see, this is how our water situation is going to work out. Plenty of room up here, our steam port, regular 4-port Gen 3 steam port setup. So we've got a 4-port steam port setup, which is awesome. And yeah, heaps of room up here for our water from the other side. That's how it all sort of going to look. So pretty busy, pretty good, but it is looking like everything is going to work and fit in some way, shape or form.
We don't have to use the spacer plate on the other side.
Well, that would look silly.
That's what I thought.
That would just look silly. So yeah, excited to actually get obviously our balancer and everything together, get the sump on, get the oil pump on. This thing's gonna look pretty wild. She's a bit of a unit. But yeah, there's a little sneak peek of how that's all going. Big dog. Righto guys, back here making a mess. I pretty much just moved my mess from over there to over here. It's essentially all that's happened. But burning midnight oil, getting this loom sorted out. I've got the firewall connection end pretty much terminated and sorted. As you can see, that's the loom for pretty much the front of the car. However, exactly like the engine loom, I would rather not terminate all of this until it's actually sort of somewhat where it's going to be, because I'm still only guessing as far as distances and everything. Once this is actually running the guard, where that's actually going to end up, where this is going to end up, and then in turn, that's going to change where everything else ends up from here on out. So again, not ideal wiring a half-built car, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm going to leave that just like the engine loom and wait until, you know, I can run this in the guard. I can get the guard back on once we're starting to get things back together, and once the guard's back on and we've got our interchiller reservoir back in this corner, I know exactly where this is going to end up, and then I can finish terminating the loom out from there. So that's the plan for that. So now I will move on to firewall end, and then yeah, it's never ending. There's so much wiring.